Look, the reason that you're having problems scaling your sales team isn't necessarily because you need more leads, more closers, or better closers, although those can help. What I see most small businesses do time and time again is make one of the following of small mistakes that actually completely throw off their game and keep them locked into the revenue roller coaster that makes Six Flags look like a Vipassana meditation retreat. This video is for you. If you've ever felt like you're not actually building a sales team, you're just feeding a carnivorous spreadsheet that devours your sanity, one missed quota at a time. I'm Drew Long of Sales by Tomorrow, and I'm the guy who helped London Club scale from $150K a month to over $6 million per month. And this following are a series of small mistakes that I see business owners making over and over again like a hamster on a treadmill. So today, we're not only going to crack open the vault of corporate suffering and show you how to not make these same small mistakes over and over again, but I'm gonna show you the complete sales scaling system that's worked for me time and time again, whether it's growing from $0 in profit to over $1 million in profit in under 18 months, or the big one, helping London Club scale to over $81 million in profit per year. By the way, we're gonna cover a lot of information today, so at any point, if you wanna grab the free download of the Gamma Doc and use it as your own personal guide, just hit the first link in the description. Let's get going. So before we dive into any of the details, we first need to talk about sort of the philosophy of sales management in the terms of how you distribute leads to sellers. And there's a lot that goes into it. And this is a very often overlooked part of the culture of high performance. Basically, you have three different ways you can set up the economy of sales management. You have what I call a communitarian philosophy or economy, which is where you distribute leads equally regardless of performance. Everyone gets a fair shot regardless, and this pairs best with leads-rich environments, which I'm going to speak about in a moment. Then you have an oligarchic system of sales economy, and this is at the whim of the sales leader who will turn leads on and off for people when they make him angry as punishment, perhaps. He makes decisions based on vibes, not hard numbers. The best schmoozers and you-know-what kissers, ones that throw tantrums, continue to get the best leads. In one of my first ever sales jobs selling solar, I closed one single deal and my sales manager ran over to me and said, "Hey, you're clearly the best at sales on this whole team. I'm going to give you the rest of the leads for the day." That would be an example of an oligarchic sales system. And then finally, we need to talk about the meritocratic sales team system, which is where the best leads go to the top performers, period. No other factors are considered. Now, this obviously is the best overall system for both leads rich and leads poor environments, but it's absolutely essential, especially in a leads poor environment. Just make sure you don't spend too much time figuring out who's the best performer, so much time that you fail to actually work the leads. Yes, I've actually seen this happen. So now we have to talk about leads rich and leads poor environments. Leads rich environment is an all-you-can-eat buffet. This is rare, and it usually means the leads are maybe of dubious lead quality, but not always. Sometimes you've just got an absolutely bang-on marketing team that's able to dial up the leads and get you huge amounts of quality leads at will. Now, with a leads-rich environment, you can use pretty much any type of lead distribution system and you can still get pretty good results. If you're in a leads poor environment where there's a paucity of leads, a scarcity of leads, then you have to be a lot more discerning. You can only really afford to use the meritocratic system and feed the high performers since you have to get maximum dollars out of every lead. What I'd suggest here is a dynamic round robin that assigns leads to whoever is currently performing the best and then waterfall it down from there to the second best and the third best and the fourth best, etc. Now, pick some given time period that makes sense for your sales cycle to do this in. Now, the nuance here with this that most people won't talk about is that there always has to be some way for the poor to get richer. In a capitalistic system or a meritocratic system, if the rich always get richer and the poor always get poorer, well, what are you going to have? Before long, if you've studied history, you know you're going to have a bloody revolution on your hands. And then the oligarchs and the rich will get pulled down and guillotined. And you don't want that in your sales team. So what you have to have is a path for poor salespeople that are leads poor to work on their skills and ascend the ladder. They need to be able to climb the ladder and get to the very top so that they can become wealthy as well. Similar to how post-war America, there was very clear paths for the middle class to gain wealth and climb the economic ladder. And that created an incredible economic miracle in America. And if you don't have that, you're going to have resentment, toxicity, and ultimately salespeople who are going to burn down the sales team / your company. The other call out here is that the more meritocratic and competitive your lead distribution system, the more skilled your leader has to be, your sales leader, to keep everyone on an even keel and emotionally in the right place to close. Because when there's a razor thin margin and every single call is going to determine whether someone moves up in the stack rank or moves down, everyone's going to be on edge and you're going to need really good sales leadership to get through that. All right, now let's talk about a related topic of who to coach. A sales leader's job fundamentally is to pour into their people and to develop them. And as much as you love to have infinite time and infinite copies of yourself to pour into everyone, you need to prioritize your time. So you probably heard the 80-20 rule. Probably 20% of your people are going to generate 80% of your results. And that's true so far as it goes. Now, you do want to give equal opportunity to all your people to get coached. Everyone needs the same one-on-ones just for pure fairness. Again, going back to a meritocratic system. But the key skill of sales leadership is actually knowing who has the capacity to produce more most quickly, to progress more, to excel more, and to sell more. And then you need to develop those people. You need to develop and pour into the right people, the elevation of which will not only mean more cash for your business, but will also be most inspiring to their peers and create the sort of culture that gets everyone else trying to do better, regardless of whether you spend time with them or not, without your intervention. So to sum up, you got to build the right high potential people. They're going to inspire other people to get better. Then shift the focus to the next high potential after you've created an absolute superstar, and then repeat that cycle. And that is how a rising tide lifts all boats. Now, as your team scales, the easier it will be for someone to hide out, to be a low or a mid performers and skate by. Therefore, the more management layers you have as you're scaling, the more you need really great leaders who are going to make sure that nobody is just skating by on their individual teams. All right, now let's talk about cadence. Everything in successful sales teams is a cadence, and this is especially true as you scale, meaning a rhythm that is repeatable and predictable. You're going to have regular meeting cadence, one-on-ones weekly, huddles daily, team meetings weekly, department review, and deep staff enrichment quarterly. Now, the daily huddles, I know this is an article of faith in sales leadership, but the reality is I've scaled very large sales teams without daily huddles. Those ones are not, I would say, absolutely essential because I just know from experience, I've done it. It's a little bit unorthodox. It's against orthodoxy, but I know that it is possible. Now, would I voluntarily go to an environment with no daily huddles? Not necessarily. There would have to be a reason. But generally speaking, I'm letting you know, if there's one of these you can skip, you could skip the daily huddles. The one-on-ones, the team meetings, the department reviews are going to be essential though. And I think the reason that you might not need daily huddles is if your one-on-ones are impactful enough and are leveraged enough, then you don't need daily huddles. And if you have your systems, the rest of your systems and your KPIs and your dashboard, and they're strong enough, you're not gonna need the daily huddles. But I'll speak on that later. Performance reviews. Call reviews should happen daily and weekly. An engaging, inspiring, and pace-setting bulletin, i.e. email, i.e. Slack message from you, the leader, needs to happen daily. Should be the first thing they lay eyes on in the morning after the dashboards. Competitions should happen daily, weekly. 6 week long is a great length of time for competition. It avoids them kind of like face planning at the start of a new month after they're tired from just winning a huge amount of cash and prizes. Quarterly and then annual are all good cadences to run as well. You have to run leaderboards to keep people aware. And you can run as small as a 2-person team to keep people engaged. And you generally can spend about 25% of 1 month's check per person on prizes. Setting and maintaining cadences is job one. A sales team is the beating heart of the organization and it needs rhythm. Finding ways to maintain that rhythm, regardless of you taking time off, being out of office, etc., is really important. Now, we're going to speak about the OODA loop. Now, what do I mean by OODA loop? This is from the Air Force, Observe, Orient, Decide, Act. Now, crossing the chasm in sales leadership, you need to cross the chasm as you scale from at the beginning, you as a manager are going to be having to watch the KPIs, eagle eye and intervening every time a KPI goes cattywampus, to the place where sellers are watching KPIs and they're intervening before you as a manager. They will come to their one-on-ones at this point and say, I want to beat the number one guy or number one gal. How can you help me? So that's a bottom-up salesperson, seller-driven OODA loop as opposed to a top-down manager-driven OODA loop. And you want the latter, obviously. All right, mistakes that prevent you from crossing this chasm into a self-managing team that's running their own OODA loop. Too many metrics. Many targets make for a poor archer. There will always be some metrics that are up that they can focus on to avoid feeling bad about themselves. Sellers are very ego-driven. They want to hold themselves in a high esteem. They want to derive confidence from their metrics. If they can find one metric that's good, even if it's an irrelevant metric, they will focus on that. You need to help them with guidance. Which metrics are most important? Optimizing the wrong metrics, i.e. sometimes conversion isn't the most important metric to focus on. People look for a place they can win, then behaviors line up behind that. So if a seller's trying to maximize conversion for themselves, what maladaptive behaviors do you think they might, again, maximize? you're right, excessively vetting leads, disqualifying to artificially boost conversion and make that their vanity metric. Visibility issues. If metrics are not visible, if you're reporting on too many metrics at once, if you're showing them a quote unquote balanced scorecard, which is generally not a good idea because it shows too many metrics, they're going to cherry pick the good ones for them. And also displaying whole funnel metrics to everyone on the sales team. Giving so much visibility can actually be counterintuitively bad for you. You might think, oh, I'm such a good manager, I'm giving everyone transparency. But what you're actually doing is muddying the waters. Too many targets. Letting people decide what they think is important. Reporting problems, not having end-of-day reports on a simple and clean roll-up where you can see them. As the team gets above 5 to 6 people, this is essential or things will fall through the cracks. While you're trying to work on Johnny over here and you're doing very intense work with him, Sally over there will not be submitting end-of-day reports. If she's not, things will start going south with her calls. I guarantee it. It's happened many, many times. Another mistake, over-engineering KPI systems for your team size. This is usually due to someone having a core competency in engineering or math or system design and development so that metrics get more and more granular until the company is drowning in information and absolutely perishes from lack of wisdom. You need to understand what metrics are you actually looking at that are actually helpful. Okay, now we got to talk about hiring and onboarding. Here's what you need to test for in the interviewing process. Attitude, always, always, always. You're going to hire for attitude, train for knowledge and skills. Attitude is the most important thing for a salesperson. Conscientiousness and attention to detail, especially if you're selling a technical product. Speed of response, which is a work ethic indicator, especially for setters or SDRs. Intelligence, G, general intelligence. G, brand representation. Listening ability, you don't want to hire the motor mouth, someone that can talk a mile a minute, or the $1 million mouthpiece. Generally doesn't make a good salesperson. They would have worked in the 1980s on a used car lot, but we are not there anymore, guys. It's 2025. Social awareness, extrovert or introvert. You can hire highly qualified introverts who are able to turn on extroversion. That's me. Or you can hire extroverts who've learned to shut up and listen very intently and glean a lot of information therein. Coachability, role play test. You've got to give them hard feedback in the role play, see how they take it. That's important. That's something that you might want to make sure they're okay with because you're going to be giving them a lot of hard feedback. The ideal salesperson profile. You've got to define exactly what you're looking for. Core qualities, I would recommend boldness, coachability, competitiveness. A sports background helps with this. And then really important that you product match them to your product. Match the sophistication level. Do not hire someone to sell something technical when they've only sold simple products. Don't hire someone to sell math-heavy products such as financial services. People aren't good at math. That's not going to be a good fit. Don't hire someone to sell construction-heavy products and they don't understand home improvement or construction, and etc. You really have to match to the prospect. This needs to be a person who can teach and train and talk to your prospect. Okay, onboarding process. A good onboarding process, they'll listen to 40 plus good sales calls, not necessarily always wins or closed ones, but good sales calls. They're going to study a question-based script framework that they can lay their personality on top of. Daily role-playing session, piece by piece, master each piece of the call back to front, have them practice the end of the call the most times because that is when they're going to get most nervous. You want them to have the most reps of the area where they're likely to get the most nervous, and it needs to be most automatic and repetitive. Half schedule the first week with call reviews, do a morning and an end of day meeting, time allowing. This is ideal. I know it's not always possible. Have them shadow as many live calls as possible, and then graduate to a full schedule only after meeting a minimum KPI. Who to fire? This is a big area that a lot of people make mistakes, so pay attention. Low performers, obviously, who fail on a PIP for 30 plus days. Prima donnas. What you allow is what will continue. If people are prima donnas, if they have a big ego, fire them. And if you allow them, that behavior will continue if you don't take no action. Anyone who's not on board with the vision and mission of the company, anyone who won't use the SOPs, anyone who won't take coaching or change their behavior, anyone who thinks they know better than everyone else, super seniors, anyone with extreme tenure, 5+ years, ossified, they've stopped learning and changing, and the family members or spouses of your best employees who were only hired because of nepotism. If you have already made the mistake of hiring because of nepotism, undo that mistake. Fire ideally both people immediately. Mistakes in hiring and ramping, hiring too fast and firing too slow, allowing nepotism and favoritism, over-hiring ahead of growth and never following it with growth in leads or ad spend. Nothing burns your reputation quicker than broken promises. Changing the comp plan constantly. This is a big one. Want everyone to quit? Just change the comp plan drastically and often. Trying to save money with a skinny comp plan. What I mean is a comp plan is skinny if it underpays for the market, underpays for the amount of work they're doing, for the intensity, for the complexity of the work. Save money other places. There's plenty of places you can use AI to save money in your business right now, guys. Don't skimp on comp. A players get paid well and they have options. A skinny comp plan just attracts people who are already starving, and they will starve your business. Don't do skinny comp plans. Training methodology. Let's go through this real quick. Here's the training effectiveness hierarchy from most to least effective. Live sales calls where the trainee observes. Live trains them like nothing else. They're watching the game being played in real time. Role playing, constant practice, recorded call reviews, training sessions where you're just teaching didactically, and then manual scripts and SOPs. Live demonstration beats everything. Show, don't just tell. The bare minimum essentials of what should be in your sales playbook. Question-based script, no paragraphs or statements. Succinct responses for all objections. Skeleton structure allows their personality overlay. Address the big three objections: price, stall, and decision maker. Mistakes made in training. Making training 100% self-paced. Most salespeople are not introverts, usually, and they will often struggle and fail without daily interaction with other humans. This is a sink or swim mentality, and it treats salespeople like replaceable cogs versus investing in them. If that is your current approach to salespeople, I would urge you to reconsider it, because salespeople are not replaceable cogs. They're the beating heart of your organization, and they will turn you into a bodybuilder of a company if you invest in them, just like you would invest in your heart health if you don't want to die. Having non-salespeople give sales training or guide onboarding. This is another lethal mistake. Nothing will turn salespeople off faster than learning from someone who's never sold the product or who has never sold a product. Don't make the mistake of thinking it's just training. It drives culture. It's the customer onboarding for your sales team. Think of how much resources you pour into customer onboarding, because you don't want your customers to churn or refund. No, you want them to stay and pay. And so you want the same thing from your salespeople. You want them to stay, sell, and refer their friends. That's salesperson lifetime value, which you need to maximize. Not making a big splash, a big impact with new salespeople. Most salespeople are very jaded. In order to think, wow, I've really won the jackpot landing this job, there needs to be a big splash impact in the first week. They need to be saying to themselves or out loud to you, wow, I'm learning things here I've never learned before. You want reviews like the following. I've been 55 years old. I've been in sales most of my life. I'm rather stunned at the one-on-ones with you. Even after being in sales 30 years, I've learned so much from Drew. You will see this down below. This is the actual screenshot of the quote. So if you can generate these types of reviews, you're in a good place. If you can't yet, maybe we should talk. Accountability and measurement, very important topics. You need daily accountability. Track behaviors first, results second. Behaviors are effort or hustle or volume metrics. Calls made, appointments set, appointments taken, offers made, on-call behaviors. These come first, and then the results flow out of doing the right behaviors. Public accountability in team meetings and one-on-ones, whole team visible leaderboards displayed to the entire sales floor or your virtual sales floor, end of day or end of shift reports. Again, the feedback into the dashboard. So the dashboard should show a stack rank, top, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, how many salespeople you have in every metric. And it should be organized. You should first show it by revenue. Revenue is what ultimately matters to your organization. So you need to have people constantly fighting for revenue. In terms of daily accountability, you need to have follow-up discipline with prospects. Grant Cardone says, well, I'm going to follow up until one of us dies. Follow up every 90 days for years. This builds your professional reputations. Conditions change. Persistence pays off. And you must have a system in place. Show a pipeline management leaderboard also to drive this behavior. Very few sales teams have a pipeline management leaderboard, but you should do it. That's a massive pro tip. That's some alpha, some sauce. You need to have written down your on-call SOPs and your off-call SOPs. On-call SOPs, simply what must you do to execute the playbook correctly. QA has done this with a concrete scorecard. 95% should be your QA goal. Execute the playbook 100% of the time, effectively on every call with every prospect, no matter what. Salespeople will fall off and fail when they get thrown off course or they see something that they don't recognize. Salespeople are like horses. If they see something in the field they don't recognize, they get spooked and they throw the rider, which is the sale. Off-call SOPs should let them know what to do about meeting prep for internal and both customer meetings, follow up and follow through, pipeline management, stage moves, deal percentage, weekly and monthly forecasting, meeting attendance and engagement. Instrument all these, but do not show them. They are for your manager eyes only, and you don't want your salespeople to get bogged down and again, try to maximize their meeting percentage of internal meetings attended rate when that's not actually the metric they should be chasing. A big mistake is abandoned musty library of SOPs that nobody follows. SOPs are useless if they live in PDFs and your sellers ignore them, like the iTunes terms and conditions. They must be living documents referenced on every call every day. There must be actual consequences for not following the SOP. It could be reduced lead flow, a PIP, termination. You can waste a lot of cycles on coaching and skill building when all you really need is SOPs with real consequences for not following them. All right, let's talk about the weekly one-on-one and the structures there. So preparation. For a 30-minute one-on-one, you should do at least 30 minutes of prep. Basic prep, review 5 to 10 calls and identify themes. This thematic analysis is hard and labor-intensive, but it drives the best results in skill development. 2, feedback delivery. You're going to deliver feedback from call listening. Fallback. If you don't have time to prep, just listen to a call live and give great feedback. This is risky. It requires you to have the pattern recognition of at least 5 to 10,000 hours of call listening to be able to pull out relevant insights from even just 30 minutes of call listening. Very difficult to do this if you don't have the 10,000 hours. Prioritize one single highest impact improvement. This also comes from pattern recognition. And then give 5-minute feedback delivery. And then in skill development, you want to spend 25 minutes role playing the new techniques. Again, tell them what you want them to do within 5 minutes, and then spend 25 minutes, multiple iterations of them practicing that skill with you. And then send written follow-up of the key points. AI, Fathom, whatever you have monitoring your meeting can do this really well, especially with a custom prompt. Once a month, dedicate an entire one-on-one to career development. Once a quarter, dedicate an entire one-on-one to ensure they're progressing in their career. I've even done like resume review with my people. I've done skill building. I've done helping them with their writing skills of public speaking, everything you can imagine. These two become very important as you grow your sales team beyond 8 people. As you grow, why are people going to stay with you and be loyal? This is a competitive differentiator. My sales leadership is helping me grow as a professional, as a person. That is why I want to stay with them, and I don't care if I could make more money somewhere else because no one else is going to treat me as well. Mistakes in one-on-one and people development. Canceling, rescheduling, or deprioritizing one-on-ones. I see this so often, guys. It breaks my heart. Moving to semi-monthly one-on-ones for new people just because they're on a hot streak. You're like, oh, Johnny's doing great. I'm going to save myself some time, reduce his one-on-ones. Do not do that. Not bringing actionable feedback to the one-on-ones. If the salesperson, the seller, isn't getting value from the one-on-ones, they're not going to want to attend. They're going to want to spend their time selling instead. You don't want that. Expecting the employee to carry the burden of agenda creation. I've definitely had business owners who said, oh, I just like to have them show up to one-on-ones. I just say, you create an agenda for us. You tell me exactly what you want to work in, and I'll help you. Well, that's not good enough, guys, because mostly the employees, the sellers, especially if they're mid-career, early career, they don't know, and oftentimes, even if they're late career, they don't know what they need to work on. That's your job. They have ideas of what they want out of life and out of their job. So they're going to bring you stuff, but sometimes what they want to work on is misguided. If you go back and listen to their calls, like they want to get better at conversion, but they need to get better at discovery. We can't read our own label. We can't see the outside of our jar from inside the jar. That's what a good coach does, is he helps vector you in to the parking lot, the really tight parallel parking spot that you can't see because you don't have visibility. You can't expect someone to have perfect knowledge of themselves, perfect self-awareness, and give you a perfect coaching agenda. That's putting way too much pressure on the employee, and it will not work. It will fail. Similarly, just asking them to ask questions that you can answer, not having an individual development plan for every employee, not spending time on their career, not asking about their life outside of work or getting to know them on a personal level, not asking them about their goals and career vision, not building loyalty, not having a salesperson lifetime value in mind with each one-on-one and team time, and berating them or punishing them for areas outside of their control. You wouldn't believe how often I see salespeople getting punished for things they have no control over. That's toxic. It'll destroy your sales team and maybe your company. And really, there's too many other mistakes you can make with people to list. If you want to go on a deep dive, you can reach out to me and we could talk about it. It's time to talk about culture and environment. Creating competitive and reinforcing culture. So visual motivation is important. Visual early morning updated leaderboards, ideally updated before the first person gets to the office or logs on. You want all the data fresh and ready. Intraday updates if possible to increase the velocity of people's OODA loop, and then bell ringing or celebration in a wins channel for each sale. That's important. Healthy competition, intra-team and inter-team, within teams and between teams. Competition is healthy and fun. Everyone should want to be number one and believe they can get there. They should believe you will support them in getting there. Teams should compete for the number one team spot. Even if they're not the top rep, at least they could take pride in being a contributor on the top team that is in the number one team spot. Individual excellence, reps should be competing for top individual metrics such as conversion rate, shortest deal cycle, largest average deal size, highest follow-up percentage, highest SOP adherence, QA, promote, prepare, and forward culture carriers. These are the people that will make the culture self-reinforcing. An incredible culture hack, just to give you some additional alpha here, guys, is suits. If you require all your salespeople, men and women, to wear suits to the office every day, even if you are 100% remote team, you will experience an increase in performance. I don't know why this works. I just know that it does. All right, morning preparation and kickoff for your morning huddles. Strong motivational start to each day sets the positive tone before sales activities begin. Erases outside negativity such as traffic or arguments with their spouse. Teach them about mental resilience. Teach them about the physical side of sales, which I teach as an acronym called MENS: meditation, exercise, nutrition, and sleep. Meditation doesn't have to be a weird woo-woo spiritual thing. It's just about getting your mind right. Tell them about the emotional suit up, which is similar to the physical suit up. You put on a physical suit to go to the office every day. It gets your mind right. It helps get your body looking right. But you similarly need to put on your emotional suit of armor, your emotional gear. You need to be prepared and feel prepared emotionally to go into battle with the prospects, to go into those conversations with the prospects. You need to adjust your mindset into an abundance mentality so you can sell more effectively without commission breath. Could be a whole video training just on that. Here's the culture of a functional high-performance team. The numbers keep everyone honest. You can teach the 5 dysfunctions of a team pyramid. Let the team members call each other out. If team members can't handle being called out, fire them. The culture and performance will not happen with a toxic team member around. You must fire the toxic people, the bad apples. Here's the mistakes in culture and environment, in the physical environment. Letting the physical environment itself get cluttered or unclean. I know, guys, it sounds crazy. Keep a beautiful, spacious, clean, and tidy office. That will massively help people mentally. I've tried both. I can tell you which one works better. High indoor air quality. Get it tested. Living green plants. Wired internet rather than Wi-Fi. I'm not going to explain this one. Just do some research, test it out, even better, see if it helps you. Cultural consistency. Allow individuals to buck culture and get away with it without consequences. Bad. Don't do that. Having a 2-tier justice system, veterans get to behave one way, newbies have to conform to another way. Bad. Don't do it. And then ongoing maintenance. You can't set it and forget it with culture. You are always gardening. A sales team is like a garden. You have to pull weeds constantly. You have to add fertilizer daily. You have to water. You have to provide sunlight. Nutritious soil constantly. Never ends. Let's talk incentive systems next. So compensation structure, tiered bonus systems work best where they get paid out more. The better they do, the higher they climb up the tiered system. Clear advancement paths, and that spend time working with high performance to develop their leadership skills so they can help others, because hopefully you're in a leads-rich environment where you can cultivate an environment where their success is the team's success and vice versa, and then make top prizes sexy and aspirational Apple products or whatever the local equivalent is for you that your team would really get excited about. Contest strategy, 6-week competition cycles are optimal, because 6 or 7, because that's going to avoid the problem of we push hard for 4 weeks and then we face plant on the 5th week. With 2 weeks, you're halfway through the next month and you're on your way to crushing another month, another cycle. You can do team-based competitions with as small as 3-person teams. Make a progressive prize structure. There's always a reason to go higher. Make commission and prizes uncapped, meaning things continue to accrue as you do better. Have leaderboards with real-time visibility of standings. Never run a contest without a leaderboard. Multiple leaderboards for behaviors as well as results. and then make a big deal out of achievements. Lots of public praise about achievements. Mistakes in incentive systems, avoid these. Having multiple comp plans running simultaneously without a very good reason. And I can't think of one. Your veterans are grandfathered into a comp plan that's richer or easier than your new people. People will find out about this. They will talk about their comp, and you will regret it. Frequent changes, changing comp plans often without very good reason. Again, if you want everyone to quit or hate you and post horrible things about you online, just change your comp plan without a good reason. And then poor communication, not explaining comp plan changes accurately or transparently enough. You need very good reasons that are true, and you need to communicate them transparently and clearly and fairly with everyone before changing comp. Let's talk about learning and enrichment environment, ongoing training. You need 24/7 training enrichment environment available to your sellers. Video content, FAQs, product knowledge, sales books, recommendations, programs. Plugging a sales program into your sales team will help massively. Hint. Drew's Sales Excellence is available on Skool. Reach out to me for some logins, pro bono, completely free for your team to test it out if you are under 2 members or under 100K per month. Case study database of all your successful wins. Have that available so that they can look at it anytime. Your technology stack is going to go something like this. You're going to have to have call recording software, a CRM, of course, a phone system, ideally with live listening or whisper systems, performance tracking, and communication, instant comms such as Slack or other. That's pretty much all you need for sales team performance management. Let's get into it. Performance improvement or PIP process. Identify a performance gap. If they drop below KPI for 2 weeks, they're going to be on a performance improvement plan or a PIP. Evaluation period. They've got 2 more weeks to improve. A total of 4 weeks. It should be a 30-day PIP, or they risk termination. Intensive coaching, tell them you're going to support them with intensive coaching and set clear expectations up front so everyone knows what happens if they fail. PIPs could be longer, 30, 60, 90 days as the team grows and pressure lessens. Now, if someone goes on a PIP, if they get to the end of it and they've made major improvement, they could come off the PIP and just go back to regular efforts. They could be on a longer PIP, maybe 90 days, where you're focused in more on narrowly, or they could just be fired. So that is culture maintenance. This is a systematic approach to managing people up or out of the bottom performers. Zero tolerance for mediocrity. Lead by example in all behaviors. That means you first to arrive, last to leave mentality. And then, as I mentioned, motivation maintenance is important. Daily morning success story sharing. Client testimonials played in huddles, or they're played in team times and one-on-ones. Results-focused storytelling, meaning on sales calls, you teach them to tell stories about client success, results-based, and connect their daily activities to a bigger picture goal, which would be perhaps your company's revenue target or your company's market penetration target, whatever that is for your company. Common mistakes in performance management: avoiding the hard conversations, correct immediately, and correct often. I'll tell you a quick story. When I first took over, in one of my previous sales jobs, when I took over, I was promoted to supervisor over some of my peers. And one of my peers in particular was a guy who was very ego-driven, very much, let's just say he was a type A personality, and he probably thought he could have managed the team better than I could have at the time. But I was promoted over him. He had actually had more tenure than me, had been there longer, but my results were better, and I guess I interviewed better, so I was promoted over him. The first thing I did upon becoming not his peer, but his boss, was the next day I noticed that one of his stats, his availability to take calls, was down, was below KPI, was below target. So I quickly sent him an email saying, "Hey, John, I noticed your availability was down at 82% as opposed to our goal of 92.5 yesterday. What happened?" And he immediately came over to my desk, immediately described the situation, immediately told me what his plan was going to be going forward to get that number up. And he told that story for years afterwards, saying, "This is how I knew Drew was a hard ass. This is how I knew Drew was going to be a serious leader. This is how I knew Drew was, not about to let me slide because we had a personal relationship," right? He was immediately put in the position of power. He immediately exercised that power for the good of the standards of the company. That's what you want to be like. With all this stuff, with performance management, with team discipline, it's easier to loosen up than tighten up later. So the team will never be as responsive as they are at the beginning of when you first bring them on, or when a new manager perhaps steps in. Poor PIP implementation is another big mistake I see happening. Don't deliver PIPs as punitive. Don't let your emotions get into it. You might be so frustrated with a seller, but they're just face planning. Don't deliver the PIP as a punishment. It should be supportive and developmental, and you should always tell them, I believe in you. I believe you can come off this successfully. I believe you can improve your skills. Giving more chances if someone fails a PIP on the flip side is a bad idea. Don't give them more chances just because they tell you a sob story or you feel bad for them. Misplaced empathy, making excuses for sellers when they go through personal challenges. Everybody has a difficult personal life. That's a given in sales. Sales is about being resilient to the challenges of your personal life and still making bank. Don't become too close or intimate with sellers. Don't say we're family. A business that is run like a family is likely to be dysfunctional, disorganized, lacking in boundaries, underperform potential, and may even be abusive. Think about all the families you've known that were all those things. So it's a real big red flag if you're telling your team, we run it like a family here, because most families are not run very well. We have to speak briefly about ethical sales practices. Make sure that long-term relationship building is at the forefront of what you teach. Focus on client success and referrals. Avoid at an all costs closing mentality, meaning we'll do whatever it takes to get the deal done. Build a reputation for ethical practice and teach ethics early. Share cautionary tales of unethical behavior. Make it up if you have to. We hired John. He did some unethical things. We fired him the same afternoon. Make it very clear there's consequences for unethical behavior and it will not be tolerated. Highlight successful long-term practitioners. Connect ethics to business longevity, and create the cultural expectation of integrity. Now, management cadence, very similar to what we talked about before. Daily, do morning huddles and end-of-day check-ins if necessary. Weekly, make sure you get individual one-on-ones with every seller weekly. Monthly, it's going to be a sort of like a quarterly or a monthly business review. You also should have weekly meetings with the whole team. The whole group can come together in addition to one-on-ones. And then quarterly, I'd recommend you do a sales offsite, a half day to a full day training with celebrations where you can celebrate the wins of 3 months, or you can retrench and retread and say, hey guys, we completely biffed it for the last 3 months. What are we going to do differently? We need to completely change things up. A quick note on manager qualities. Who makes a good sales leader? More giving than top salespeople. Top salespeople or individual contributors are really in it for themselves and their own paycheck. They're not necessarily super compassionate or empathetic towards other people. Good management potential is people that are actively helping everyone around them get better. And you can tell management potential when someone's actually improving the conversion or the KPIs of everyone on their team. Emotionally stable. They don't have high highs or low lows. They lead by example. For focus areas, they focus on motivation and training. And they have a very, very low tolerance for BS. Someone with a high tolerance for BS is going to create a weak team. And then finally, they're decisive, they're fast to fire, slow to hire, and they're quick to make decisions. They get maybe 60%, 80% of the information they need, then they pull the trigger. Here's what you should be doing to measure success as a sales leader. Revenue growth is up, consistent month-over-month growth. Retention of top performers is up. Referrals rate from top performers. Your best people want their friends to work with you and for your company, and that builds a great new hire pipeline. Again, that's a key to salesperson lifetime value. Your average sale price or contract value increases. Your satisfaction scores go up from CSAT and from your employee feedback scores. Word of the wise, you should be getting employee feedback constantly, at least quarterly, if not more often, and you've got good feedback from your peers 360 degrees. Success predictors, disciplined follow-up. Number 1. You've created a competitive and a collaborative environment. Regular skill development happens every single day. Maintenance of cadences. Cadences of meetings and reviews are maintained. Accountability system and adherence is very high, and the culture is aligned with high standards. The culture becomes a self-managing flywheel after a while if you're doing this right. Here's how to scale. Again, scaling from $150,000 a month to $6 million a month, it's not easy, but it really depends on the following things. Documentation of all processes, creating training systems and onboarding systems that scale. Build your management layers gradually. Do a great job selecting top talent to be your next level of management. Maintain your culture during growth. Focus on systems over personalities and fix one-off issues systematically. You need to be able to have the long-term vision of a world-class sales organization that will help you attract and retain top talent, create sustainable competitive advantages. You have to develop, as I mentioned, a very robust internal promotion pipeline. I'm emphasizing this because it's a huge key. And establish industry leadership position. That ultimately is what leads you to that industry leadership position. Now, again, there's a lot of data in this Gamma Doc. If you want it, you can go ahead and hit the first link in the description. You can get a completely free copy sent to your email. And if you want to go in depth and have a deeper conversation with me or my team on how we might be able to help your team attain this incredible level of growth, even if it's from 0 in profit to 1 million in profit or something of that magnitude, go ahead and hit the second link in the description and we'll be able to find a time to see if we can chat with you and see if we may be able to help you. Hope this video helped, and I'll see you guys in the very next one.